What's going on, gardeners? It's Saturday, March 26th, and it is a gorgeous early spring day here on the southeastern coast of North Carolina. Today, I'm going to share with all of you a secret that the big box nurseries do not want you to know. I'm going to show you a completely legal and ethical way to score free transplants from the big box store nurseries and dramatically reduce your cost buying seedlings.
If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell to receive new video notifications, and check out our Amazon storefront and spread shop in the video description for a list of the gardening products I use and awesome custom designed apparel and other gear. Your support is greatly appreciated.
In order to show you this trick, I'm going to take you on a quick journey to Lowe's.
These prices are getting out of control. $4.78 for a single tomato plant. I can buy 3 pounds of tomatoes at the grocery store for this. $4.78 for one cabbage plant. That means if I were to actually be able to keep this thing alive, fertilize it, pay for the fertilizer, pay for the water, hope that no moths or worms eat it, and I get this head of cabbage, I paid over $5 for this head. I can go and buy a head of cabbage at the grocery store for $1. $4.78 for squash per plant. Same thing with the pepper plants. All of the pepper plants are almost $5 a piece for a single plant. Now here's the trick right here. When you're looking at plants at a garden center like this and you notice that it's almost $5 for a single plant, what you'll also notice is that a lot of these commercial nurseries, they do something called overseeding, where they place multiple seeds in each container. And if you look, some of the containers are overseeded. So one like this actually has 3 individual tomato plants in it. So while one plant for $5 is a terrible deal, for that same $5 you could actually get 3 plants if you search through. And this is not just unique to the tomato plants. A lot of these squash plants are overseeded as well. So for that $4.78 price, you can actually get 3 individual plants. So I have 5 different containers here, and at $4.78 a container, they're $23.90 for these 5 containers. And if you were to just grab the first 5 that you see, you may only get 5 plants. But with a little bit of searching, I was able to find one with 3 squash plants, 2 eggplant, 6 tomatoes with 3 in each container, and 2 peppers in this one. So that's a total of 13 plants for the same $23.90, and that gets me down to a much more reasonable cost of $1.83 a plant.
While I was at Lowe's, I decided to pick up one of these Bonnie Lunchbox orange pepper plants, and on its own, at $5 a plant after taxes, it is a terrible deal. However, this plant has 1, 2, 3 individual pepper plants in it, and when you add that all together, 3 plants for $5 after sales tax, it's not absolute highway robbery. It's still much more expensive versus growing your plants from seed, but it's not that big of a ripoff, all things considered. Now what we have to do is we have to separate these 3 plants into 3 individual transplants and move them into individual containers to reestablish. So in this bucket right here, I simply have HP Pro Mix, a compressed tube of potting mix. So just your standard potting mix, and I'm going to place about maybe 1 inch of potting mix on the bottom of all 3 of these individual seedling trays. Now we're going to take our pepper plant and we are going to pop it out. And it's good to do this when the peppers are smaller because the roots aren't completely root bound yet. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to slowly break up this root ball and then try and expose the central stems of each of these pepper plants. So in this case, what I actually like to do is I like to take an inexpensive steak knife and actually manually cut and try to separate them a little bit. And they will start to pull apart. And then simply shake the root ball. And as you continue to shake these, they will slowly start coming loose. And now that I've been shaking these for about 1 minute, I was actually able to completely separate this one right here, and the roots are in great shape, so I'm going to place that in one container. And then I'm going to work on the other 2. And look at that. I was able to separate all 3 of the individual pepper plants. With a little bit of gentleness, patience, and persistence, I was able to successfully separate all 3 pepper plants, and all of their roots are mostly intact. Now we can simply up-pot these in the transplant containers. So all we're going to do is we're going to lay our pepper plant in the individual transplant containers. We're going to put in a handful of a seed mix, or potting mix rather, and then lightly press them down, and then I'm going to lightly pick up the pepper plant a little bit so the roots get better dispersed inside of the container. We don't want them to be completely and totally bound up in one solid ball. And when you pick them up and you tap the container down a little bit, you kind of fluff them up in there. So we're going to do that for all 3 of these plants. Then we will make sure to add labels to every single plant so we know exactly what they are. Then I'm going to water them in with a little bit of this Alaska fish fertilizer. This is my secret weapon for helping acclimate transplants. I just like to put a couple of tablespoons in a large watering can, and I find that this stuff really helps with the transplant shock, and it greatly increases your odds of transplants taking when they undergo some kind of root stress like they underwent here. Using this tip, I was able to get 3 transplants for the price of 1. So if you don't start your own seed, or if you didn't start enough seed and you still have to go out and buy some transplants to supplement, you don't have to pay these highway robbery prices for individual plants. Simply peruse them, look them over very carefully, because it's very common to find some that are overseeded as doubles and triples. And when you buy the doubles and triples and you separate them like this, you can save a ton of money in the long run for buying individual transplants like this. Now, when it comes to separating individual transplants like I showed you in this video, this holds true for pretty much all of the individual transplants that they sell at big box stores and nurseries. So your tomatoes, your peppers, your cucumbers, your squash, your pumpkins, your cabbage, your broccoli, you can separate them all the same into individual transplants and up-pot them like I showed you in this video. You can follow the exact steps outlined in this technique. The only plants you really can't separate very well are root plants like carrots and beets and such, because once they're in ground like that, they don't like to be disturbed because they are a root crop. However, those type of plants are rarely sold at big box stores and nurseries. As transplants, you generally direct seed them. So everybody, I sure hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you're notified when we release more videos like these. If you're curious about any of the products that I use in my garden, they are all linked down below in the video description in my Amazon storefront, so check that out if you want to see all of the unique products that I use personally. Also, while you're there, check out my spread shop for custom merch if you want to support the channel. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see all of you again on the next video.
All right, Dale, let's show everybody how strong you are. Ugh. He's so strong. Ugh. Tug. Ugh. Ready. Ugh. Come on. Ugh. You stinker. You're so vicious. Dale, drop. Good boy. Go! He's so smart. He's such a good boy.